United Phoenix Publishing presents The Conviction by Charity May and narrated by the author. Chapter 1. My desires and direction in life have flipped completely upside down. My life now depends on winning a game I never wanted to play. It is still surreal that I've turned my back on all I'd believed in just a few short months to come to this point. Black ocean waves crash on the cliffs just beyond my balcony as I bounce between pacing my room, falling into nightmare-filled sleep, or sitting by the ledge, watching the storm. I've struggled with chronic insomnia since I was a child, but that has little to do with my inability to sleep tonight, not with all I have on my mind. Not to mention how late it was when Damien finally left me last night, or this morning, to try to sleep. Last night changed everything. I didn't let the rebels in. I told my father, the leader of the Custode Rebellion, to get out. He'd listened, but with a warning I'd see the dreaded truth of the prophecy. A prophecy that said if Prince Gavril married, our kingdom would fall. Something he'd neglected to tell me when he beguiled me into the enthronement to be his spy, so he could break into the palace and assassinate the royal family. Once, I agreed with him. The royals started this 500-year war by overtaxing the people and never letting up. But after I'd met them, lived with them, seen their side, I have doubts. Doubts that led me to reject the leaders chosen by the three factions, Potentate, Loyalist, and Custode. I'd betrayed my Custode commission and family. But where would that leave me? I await the guard coming to bring me in to be questioned by the royal family for last night's events. Could I prove my innocence without revealing my past and being tried for treason? I jump as my bedroom door opens. My maids enter the room to get me ready. I was numb to the sunrise, not realizing that meant they'd come in soon. Vivian, my head maid, looks around and realizes I'm not in bed before my second maid, Fleur, does. Fleur's gray eyes are wide and worry as they dart about the room, searching for me. Vivian's dark eyes are calm. They scan the room and spot me without too much trouble. Softly, Vivian taps Fleur's arm to point me out. I force a smile for them as Fleur gives me a gentle smile. Guilt settles into my stomach. My maids have been angels through everything. They don't deserve this. Even when my third maid, Ro, was kidnapped by rebels, Vivian and Fleur stood by me and looked after me with as much care as ever. I could never repay them. I wonder how much they have heard about last night as I slip off the balcony rail and walk back into my room. Do they know I was found armed in front of the royal family's safe room? Or did they only hear that I'd fought the rebels instead of going into the chosen lady's safe room as I should? They don't let on their thoughts as my angelic maids help me get ready for the day. Fleur is most gentle with me, giving me a sympathetic smile, brushing her light blonde hair from her face as she works. Vivian comforts me by exuding confidence, such a contrast to Fleur. She works as if sure that I'm already queen. She looks confident, too, her dark hair smoothed back without a hair out of place as always. To her, it's just another day at the palace. I let them dress me, not questioning what they dress me in. My team is the best. Damien Lexus, my attendant, and these amazing women are the reason I've made it to the top 25 in the enthronement. I'd not shine half so well without them. I wince when they touch my right shoulder. Sage, the Prince's Custode guard, held me a bit too tightly last night when he found me in the throne room. Vivian frowns angrily as Fleur apologizes, noticing the bruise. My maids are just about finished when the door opens once more, and my attendant strides into the room. "Good morning, milady," he greets me with his formal tone. How does he not look tired? He'd been up late with me trying to calm me down before I tried to sleep, but he looks as perfect and put together as ever. His straight black hair is pulled into a ponytail at the base of his neck and tied with a claret red ribbon that goes well with his matching suit jacket, black waistcoat and trousers, and dark cravat, all of which offset his emerald eyes. "You look beautiful," he smiles softly at me. Though he looks young, He feels more like my father, with how he smiles at me in understanding and pride. "Are you ready, my lady?" I swallow and nod, slipping into the shoes Vivian placed down for me, before finally finding my voice. "As I'm going to be." Damien smiles and offers his arm like a proper gentleman. "I shall escort you, if you like." "Thank you." I could use his support, even if it feels like I am being led to the gallows. The splendid halls of the palace feel too bright to me. Though it's early, the seashell white, sand gold, and Parayan blue themes are naturally bright. Like the beach that lies outside, it contrasts my dark mood painfully. I always thought the castle was dark and foreboding before I came. Instead, it's bright and light. But with where I might be going, it should be dark like a storm. I numbly follow Damien's gentle guidance down the main staircase to the entrance hall. My heart tightens to see its splendor. The narrow hallway to the right, lined with meeting room doors in the main entrance, is mostly in shadow, but the grand glass dome that lights the room is as beautiful as ever, soaking in and reflecting the first rays of the morning light. Damien leads me left, towards the oval center that holds the doors to the throne room, and via the grand staircase curving on either side, the ballroom. But Damien does not take me to the throne room as I feared. He leads me to the left of this oval, and to a door that's about halfway down its stunning curvature. This door doesn't lead to the throne room, but to a hall that goes across the length of the dome with the door on the other end, 2 on the right side and 3 on the left. Damien takes me to the first door and stops, releasing my arm. "I've been told they want to talk to you alone first, but I swear to you, Kascia, as I did the other night, I will do everything in my power to help you. Remember, you have done nothing wrong. I won't let them punish you for it," he says, trying to meet my eyes. I nod, trying to play the brave princess, but inside, I'm struggling to hold it all together. Apart from lying about why I joined the enthronement, I have done nothing wrong. I changed my mind and did my best to protect the royal family, even keeping the king's lung condition a secret when I accidentally found out. I just have to tell the truth, yet avoid saying anything incriminating, like my father is the leader of the Kascia rebellion, or that I'd been engaged to the son of the loyalist rebellion leader. Maybe this wasn't so simple. I just have to remember to be the princess they want. A true princess doesn't need more than the truth, so neither did I. I can prove a true princess and win this and not be beheaded. Right? Damien smiles at me. Exactly. His smile gives me more confidence. I take a deep breath and square my shoulders. I'm ready. The authoritative tone I manage impresses even me. Damien beams to hear it. Best of luck, my lady. He opens the door for me. Not that you need it. I pull my shoulders back and step inside. The queen's frantic pacing catches my eye first. She paces along the opposite wall from me. The room is a long rectangle with an oval table in the center. The short side on my left has a hearth, while the other side looks to be simply paintings. In the middle of the room, the queen paces, elegant even in her agitation. Her mane of royal coils bounce off her shoulders with volume I couldn't dream of having. The train of her dress follows her as she paces in a regal glide. The golden green of her gown contrasts her dark, warm skin beautifully. The king sits at the head of the oval in a chair just a step down from a throne. He is a stark contrast to his wife, relaxed, sitting cross-legged, brushing something off his knee as if this was just any other day. He's handsome in a very different way, with a charming smile that makes his eyes crinkle at the corners, his gray hair that clings to the slightest hint of brown it once had. In the far right corner, Sage, the prince's personal custode guard, leans on the wall, arms and ankles crossed. He would have blended into the shadows with his dark clothes and cloak, but his deep green eyes, which study me with mistrust, and his pale skin gives him away. I swallow as I glance at his wrists, where I know the mark of his assassin class waits to attack me at any provocation. Prince Gavril paces the short side of the room, but unlike his mother, his pace is not elegant or anxious. His is like that of a caged tiger, irritated, contained, and ready to spring to action. The corner of my mouth twitches as I watch him. I handsome combination of his parents, skin like chocolate milk, amber eyes like sunrise, warm smile like his father, but the grace of his mother, two opposites making a positive no one had expected. I take all this in within a second of stepping into the room. The smell of dark wood and books fills my nose. Prince Gavril's eyes immediately snap to mine and lock as the door closes behind me. He turns away before I can read into his expression, returning to his pacing. Does he think I'm the traitor his guard believes me to be? Or does he still think I'm the girl who should win the enthronement and be his queen? My eyes go to the prince's chest. He's not as put together as he normally is. His parents are dressed perfectly as always, but the prince's waistcoat isn't fully buttoned, the loose section rising up and down with his agitated breath. I've seen him on and over the edge of exasperation more times than I can count. If this is a formal interrogation as I feared, the prince is underdressed for it. His jacket is missing. His curly hair is an agitated mess. I discover why as he runs his fingers through it in an attempt to vent off his temper. I look back at the king and queen, giving them a proper curtsy. "You called for me, your majesties," I ask with a proper tone. My voice is oddly quieted in the carpet and decoration of the room. Out of the corner of my eye, I notice Gavril freeze. "Yes, Lady Kascia," the queen says, hurrying to her seat beside her husband and taking his hand. The familiar longing rises in me as I watch their tender exchange. The king doesn't tense like his wife. He leans back in his seat, squeezing her hand with assurance. Is that a good sign? The king is a bit of a goofball, making him hard to read in these situations. None of them are wearing their crowns. Perhaps this means this can't be a full trial. "Yes, now we've had a chance to get our heads, we can discuss what happened last night, like the gentlemen and ladies we are." The king gives me his playful smile. I wish he'd be serious for a moment. My life hangs in the balance, and his lighthearted nature makes it hard for me to know where I stand. "You explained after the last incident how you knew how to fight. We accepted that your father trained you to defend yourself on the rough streets." The king frowns at the reminder of the state of his kingdom. "But you can understand our concern when you're found holding a blade at the safe room door during an attack." "I was startled," I say meekly. "I was helping to drive the rebels away. I didn't know where the safe room was, so when I heard the crack of the door opening, it frightened me. I meant you and your family no harm, I promise." I'd also been just about ready to drop my sword in tears as I'd just thrown my family ring at my father and told him I never wanted to see it again. "You expect us to believe that?" the queen asks, her voice more scared than accusatory. "It's the truth," I state simply. "Do you have any reason to doubt me?" I meet her brown eyes, so close to her son's, but lacking the golden tones I have come to admire in his. "Lady Kascia," the queen chides, "you were standing with a sword drawn on our guard." That was not true. I'd not pointed it at Sage more than a second. I was going to drop it long before he jumped at my throat to pin me to the wall. "Is that not suspect?" I fight the hurt that rises at her tone. I know she's a nervous woman, but I thought I'd earned more trust than that. "I did not draw on your guard," I say evenly. "Is my silence not enough? I've not told your secret to anyone. If I was a rebel, would I keep that secret? You know my father is displeased with my position here. Does that all mean nothing now?" "She has a point," the king says to his wife. It sounds like they are playing out an interrupted argument. "You knew about the attack." Sage's voice cuts across the royals in a low growl. He pushes himself off the wall and quickly starts to circle me like a predatory cat. "Yet you said nothing until they were inside." "Honest? Be honest." I take deep breaths, trying not to let him intimidate me. "I explained that to you last night. I didn't think they'd try when I said I'd not help them. You already suspected me. I feared if I said anything, you'd have thrown me out." "You said he last night," Sage presses. "Who? You spoke like you knew who it was." I bow my head. "I know what I said." "What did you mean?" Sage asks slowly. I can't confess he's my father. Sage will have me hanged before I could take a breath. I glance at his vambraces. If it even got that far. I have friends who sympathize with the rebel cause. They asked me to let them in. They didn't put names on the letter. I just meant he in a general sense. But it was a team job. There were loyalists and custodes in the palace last night. You only mentioned custodes. I know some who are loyalist sympathizers too. You must understand, I'm a prima actress by trade. It's quite common for people in that art to be quite rebellious in nature. I know those two factions don't always get along, but they try. I suppose last night they felt the chance to get in was worth uniting over. But how did they get in without help? They never had before, and I didn't help them. There had been other attacks that got in since the enthronement started, but none had been me. Was another girl letting them in? I had little idea who, but that seems the only way it was possible. So you know who, but not names. Sage's tone is full of disbelief. You expect me to buy that? I have guesses. I don't know for certain who. You must understand, most sympathize with one rebellion or another, but take no action. How can I say someone I know is a sympathizer, but I don't know if they've actually done wrong? I'd be accusing with no evidence. But you said he. I'm not asking for all of them. I'm asking who that he is. Only a guess. I can't give them my father's name, but there is someone else I could give them. The other he who betrayed me. Jake, my ex-fiancé, who until last night hadn't realized I'd abandoned him. Was that fair to a man who'd been so good to me and treated me like I was already his princess? Other than telling me to do whatever it took to kill his enemy, including sleep with him. I am angry with Jake. He'd broken me with how he'd pushed me into this. But to give him up like this? Most of all when I feel guilty that I couldn't even admit to his face how I hated him for what he'd done to me? If it's just the one person, we'll find him innocent or guilty easy enough, Sage replies. Or does this he matter more to you? The prince and I meet eyes. We can't help it. We both knew what Sage means. He's challenging me. Prince Gavril knows I have an ex at home I am trying to get over. It was how I explained why I was so unhappy when I came here. Sage suspects this he to be the boy I once loved. Sage set me a task. Who matters more? I have to prove it. Jake or Gavril? Though I already made my choice. Having come down to this moment makes it all the more real, and so much worse. Jake, I whisper as my lip shakes. My eyes drop to the floor. It's like denouncing who I had been, denying everything about my life before I came here. The good, the bad, everything in that world and who I'd been. I have to become the princess they want and reject the life I had before. In giving up Jake's name, I give up all I had been. If I'm forced to go home now, I'll be worse than dead. The Loyalists will never forgive me for this, no matter how my father tries to defend me. I gave up their choice for king. What? Sage encourages me to speak up. I shut my eyes against the flood of tears, glaring up at him. He heard me. I know he did. He wants the others to hear it from me. Jake! I spit bitterly at him. Last name? I pause. I don't know. The realization is a blow. I was going to marry him, and I don't know his last name? He knew mine, but I never asked his. What kind of relationship had we been in? I was sure it was real, loved him, loved how he loved me. I was sure all would be perfect. Did he even know my fake surname? What would Jake say in reverse? An image of him being grilled just like I am by his father and fellow loyalists comes to mind. Jake whispering my name as the traitor as I had his face filled with pain and shame like mine is. My best friend and love is now the enemy I had to betray, and he me. What had my life become? So what were you doing in the throne room last night? The queen cuts into my thoughts. I wanted to make up for not being wise enough to warn you of their possible attempt, I reply, rambling a little as I struggle to take in this new revelation. How are you armed if not by rebels? The queen asks. Why is she so set on me being a danger? Sage relaxed at my confession. Why wouldn't she? As if on cue, Damien steps into the room with the calmness of a summer morning. I hadn't heard him open the door. It was like he morphed out of the shadows. That was my doing, he says as he strides forward, commanding the room like it's his stage. I gave it to her, he says, meeting Sage's glare with a confident smile. I hope I didn't come in too soon. Not at all. We were just about to send for you. The king waves it off. Please, go on. The guards were leading her to one of the safe rooms, but when I saw her desire to help, I had her lead me to the throne room to head off the main attack, Damien says. Why? The queen's brows draw together as she looks at Damien, clearly unable to understand. I can't blame her for not taking him at face value. He is my attendant after all. Because one should never shirk help, no matter where it comes from, Damien says. I knew she was capable, and she knew the minds of her former friends better than I. I knew in that moment forcing her to hide would only hinder our side and aid our enemy. Besides, nowhere does it say a lady cannot fight. If there is a problem with that, I suggest you take it up with Cedric. He gives the queen a knowing smile. The queen sighs and nods. All right, I cannot fault you for having friends who aren't in perfect alignment when I suppose there are not many to be had. But fear is still clearly in her eyes. Is that woman ever not afraid? I suppose it can't be easy with her people wanting her head and losing so many children, but can't she have some faith? Though it persuades the queen, Sage narrows his eyes at Damien. That explains some things, but not everything. There's still something you're hiding. I shake my head. That's what happened. It is indeed, Damien nods. Though I'm afraid I bear some fault in this matter. He bows his head in humility, and I can see a little hint of guilt in his eyes. For you see, I knew about the attack as well. His head remains bowed as his eyes snap up to meet the king's. Yet you didn't mention it, even to... The king stops at a look from his wife. I frown. To who? He knows, but I told no one else, Damien says, raising his head. You know he doesn't like to get involved. I see. In that case, how does that make it your fault? The king asks, while the queen looks horrified he is so bold. How was it bold? I think I catch Gavril rolling his eyes, but it's hard to tell with his pacing. Well, to be bluntly honest, I noticed over a month ago she was getting letters that were upsetting her, and asked her about them. She opened up to me then about her friends and what they were pressuring her to do. I offered her my support and encouragement to stand by her answer of telling them no. I even offered advice on how to speak their language, so they'd be more willing to accept her answer, but I failed to advise her to give you warning. The thought didn't even occur to me that she or I should do something more about it, and for that, I am sorry to you and her. He nods to the king and queen, then looks at me with his dark green eyes filled with his apology. I force a small smile. I suppose that would have been good advice, even if he'd had to talk me into it. I still fear that if they learn who my father is, I'm as good as dead. That likely would have been a better course of action, the queen says, still frowning, but not really at me or Damien. More like she is struggling to understand. Of course, your majesty. Damien nods to her in perfect politeness. I apologize, I didn't consider the matter with more severity. Rest assured it will not happen again. And if you have any doubts about my character, I suggest you take that up with my brother. He gives the royal couple a look as if he's daring them to do it, before his eyes shift and land on Sage. Sage narrows his eyes a little, but doesn't comment. He gives Damien a sharp, quick nod of understanding. Then he looks at the king and queen, bowing his head to them. In the end, it is your choice to make, he says. But someone has been letting the rebels in. I agree. Damien's eyes move back to the king and queen. Someone has. Who that might be, I do not know enough to say. But trust me when I say this. Kascia is not a threat to you or anyone in this room. She has been honest in her account. I believe she not only cares deeply for your son, but for you as well, your majesties. She does not want any of you to come to harm. I swear my life, power, and name upon it. There's a pause in which I can't look at any of them. afraid of their reactions. "Well said," the king nods, looking down as he thinks it over, making that face he does when he's thinking about something that confuses him, with his brows coming together and his lips pursing just a little, as if his whole face pinches in the middle as he tries to think it out. "And it is true, she's given us reason to be trusted. We have the others to interview." He looks up and nods at me. "I believe that wraps up our questioning, Lady Kascia." He smiles. "We are asking the girls to keep to their rooms until further notice. We'll have your meal brought up to you." I curtsy, hiding my swallow as I did. "Thank you, your majesties." "Thank you, Lady Kascia, for your time and loyalty," the king says, his voice comforting and warm. I give a weak smile back. Both he and Gavril have this odd ability to soothe me, but it only helps a little when I feel guilty for not being honest about that being the only reason I came here. Though it's not why I stay. As I turn to go, I meet eyes with Prince Gavril. His eyes are filled with pain, confusion, and longing. He's standing still as we meet eyes. Does he believe me? Does he think I am lying? Or is he unsure how he feels about Jake? Did he figure out he was the ex I came here to avoid? Is he angry for it? "Sir Damien, if you wouldn't mind making sure she gets back to her room safely," the king asks. Damien bows to him. "It would be my pleasure, your majesty." He offers me his arm. I take it with a weak smile, forcing my eyes away from the prince.